All right, now we should be live. For some reason, I don't know what's up, but we were having problems. This is what happens when you're flying solo, okay? So, all right, now you guys should be hearing me. We are live now. Okay, good. I apologize, my friends. For whatever reason, things happen strange with technology. Weird. It's probably just me, though. I'm sure that never happens to you guys, right? 85 folks, that's beautiful. All right, well, we're going to get some questions answered. Jason can hear me. That Jason can hear me, then everybody can hear me. And if not, then it's on your end. So we are broadcasting right now. All right, good. All right, I'm going to wait just a few more seconds here and make sure I see some other folks saying that they can hear me and what have you. Otherwise, okay, here we go. Good. All right. In the meanwhile, while we're waiting, because I'm seeing that some folks are not in, that's okay. They're refreshing their page and all the rest. In the meanwhile, my friends, 0 questions inside of UGS. We got a lot answered this afternoon. For those of you who are saying, what do you mean this afternoon, Eric? We're doing 2 live broadcasts per month now, okay? If you haven't seen the email, we're doing 2 a month now. You probably know this already. So we're doing 1 at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 1 at 7 p.m. Central Standard Time. And we're doing that for 2 reasons. Number one, we've got a lot of people in the program now. And as I promised, I want to make sure that all of your questions get answered. So the only way we can do that is for there to be more live, right? And we got all the questions to inside earlier. So let me have it. Where are you guys at today? And now listen to me. No question is dumb. Okay? It may be repetitive, or you may be asking something that's in the course already, but that's okay. You probably don't know that if you're asking me, so I will tell you exactly where it's at. So where are you guys at? Where are you at with your practice? Is there anybody here, the 87 people that are in here at this moment, is there anybody not practicing inside of 365? Is there anybody not practicing in 365? And if so, why? And that's okay. You know, some people may not have the same amount of time. But let me know what issues are you running into? I'm seeing a lot of beautiful comments inside of 365. Folks are practicing things that they've never practiced before. Their fingers are doing things that they've never done before. So an amazing amount of comments coming through regarding all that. So, all right, we got our first question for tonight. Get those questions ready, though, my friends. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for you, okay? Chuck's a noob using 365. Nice, okay. Okay, Tom is saying, can you give a couple examples of fixed springboards beyond the 12th fret and root notes? Yeah, let's talk about it. So, talking fixed. Now, for those that don't know what Tom's talking about, this is a concept that springboards is something that if you were to search YouTube, you're going to find a bunch of people jumping on springboards, nothing about guitar, because this is something that I've come up with. I don't know why there's not words for this stuff. I mean, some people call them octaves, but more than that, what a springboard is to me is it is basically a way to understand the fretboard in yet another way. So we're not having to memorize, okay? Springboards are using octaves and other cheats, if you will, to get around on the fretboard, to know where you're at, okay? And so we have stationary and we've got movable. Tom's asking about fixed or stationary springboards, ones that don't move. So let's talk about that, okay? So remember, we know the names of our open strings, or we should know the names of our open strings, right? Let me get a nice clean tone happening here. Okay, so for instance, we know that E, A, D, G, B, E are the names of our open strings. So Tom, some springboards would be this. Number 1, from 0 to 12, or I should say 0 fret, we know E, A, D, G, B, E. The 12th fret is the same thing, E, A, D, G, B, E. Why is that, Eric? Because this is the octave. That's why there's 2 dots. It's very special. We can shine a spotlight on it and say, wow, you're very impressive, 12th fret, because this is where the guitar starts over. Essentially, it's the halfway mark of our guitar string. Now, some guitars actually have 2 octaves, and so sometimes you'll see the 24th fret. That could be a 3rd springboard. But a couple other springboards that are stationary that you could go on are the 5th fret / 4th fret, because we do it for 1 string. When we're tuning our guitar, when we're tuning it to itself, I just posted a video recently here on social regarding this. In order to tune the guitar to itself, we have to understand that at the 5th fret, or at the 4th fret, in the case of the G string, we've got the note that is the same as the string below it. So for instance, if I come to the 5th fret of the E string, it's an A, and there's an A string right underneath it. Okay, let me drill down here so you guys can see a little bit closer here. So this is the E string. I'm at the 5th fret, and I'm picking it. That's an A, but the 5th fret, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And this is an open A, the string right underneath it. So if I pick those 2 should be the same. Okay. Now, why is that a springboard? It's a springboard because E, A, D, G, B, E, then we know E, A, D, G, because that 1 string is tuned down. We went over that in another video. But E, A, D, G, B. Okay? Right? Actually, I should say it starts, we're on the E string here. So let's say the E string is tuned, then it should be A, D, G, B. I'm sorry, A, D, G, B, E. I've said it so much like that that I need the E to start off with. A, D, G, B, E. Okay, does that make sense? So we know that this string should be in tune with the A string. The 5th fret of the A should be in tune with the D. The 5th string of the D should be in tune with the G. The 4th fret of the G should be a B. We can hear that slightly out of tune. And the 5th fret of the B string should be an E. Okay, now with that being said, then we know that that is yet another springboard, right? Right up here at the 5th fret. And we know that because we know the notes that should be associated with the open tuning. If you don't know that, and you don't know it really super quickly, then that springboard's not going to help you, okay? So I know to some that's a duh, and then to others, you're like, oh, okay, I need to learn that. Yes, you need to learn it because it needs to be it needs to be very quickly accessed to you. It needs to be, what's the word I'm looking for? Indispensable? No, it just needs to be very convenient for you. So knowing that 5th fret, that those notes apply towards the tuning, that's going to help out a lot. And I have a video for that inside UGS, and it's something like tuning without a tuner. You need to know that video. But also, yeah, do that video first because that will make sense as to why we need to know what the 5th fret is, okay? And then you can search in the upper left-hand corner. If you don't know this already, in the upper left-hand corner of 365 and of UGS, there is a search engine that's just within the site there, of course, and you could type in chords or scales or tuning or springboards or whatever, and you could search for these videos much quicker than just going through all the videos. A lot of videos up there now, right? So, why is that important? Well, because here we have the 0th fret, here we have the 12th fret. And so if we're trying to identify notes up here, then instead of starting from here and working our way up, E, F, F sharp, G, G sharp, that's going to take a long time before we get up to the 13th, 14th fret. We could start at the 12th fret and say E, F, F sharp, much quicker. So we got to know that this is a springboard, and it's just the same as the open notes, E, A, D, G, B, E, E, A, D, G, B, E. Cool? Now, the other one is the tuning method, which is at the 5th fret. And so you got to watch that video on tuning. You could just search tuning in the upper left-hand corner of UGS. And then that'll make sense to you, the 5th fret. Now, whatever's done on the guitar, you can do it 12 frets higher, and you'll get the same exact notes, same exact 1 octave higher. So for instance, here's an A minor chord. And I could come up here to the 12th fret and go. I play a D chord here. I play a D chord right up here. Make sense? So that's the 12th fret. Now, so if you know anything in this open position, then at the 12th fret, you know the same thing. Same name, okay? Now, we said the 5th fret's important because, number one, we got that tuning bit, but it's also almost right in the middle. Let's say the 6th fret would be right in the middle. But nonetheless, we can easily bounce forward or backwards. So if someone asks you what this note is, you'd say it's an A sharp or an A flat because we're using this note as our springboard as opposed to this note or the 12th fret. So when you do that, what you're doing is you're subdividing the neck in a few different ways, which makes it easier to access notes. For instance, now I put up a video the other day, and I said, you know, basically if you counted 1 to 1,000,000, you don't memorize that. You didn't memorize 1 to 1,000,000, right? What happens if you forgot what comes after 999,998? What happens if you forgot that? Well, wouldn't matter because now we have a method. So we don't really truly memorize how to count. We have a method, and we know that 3 comes after 2 and 4 comes after 3, etc., etc., and then we've got the decimal system. So it's more of a system. That's the same thing with this. I've got a video for this on YouTube that's not quite as descriptive, and someone said, that's ridiculous. People memorize the neck every time, all the time. No, they don't. No, they don't. I can promise you they don't. You can take the best guitar players in the world. They don't have it memorized any more than you or I would. Because if you take the dots away, the frets look all the same. It's not like you can differentiate between this one or that one. Okay? We have to use association, and that's what I'm using as association. So, for instance, someone may say, yeah, but they would know that the third dot is the 7th fret. Okay, they're using association. Well, they would know that what this note is because there's a dot there, and that's the 2nd dot. And so, again, they're using association. That's all we're doing. If we don't have association, then we just have frets, and they don't really tell us much. So no one really memorizes the fretboard any more than they would memorize counting 1 to 1,000,000. So we got 0, we got 12, we got the 5th fret. And remember we said anything that we do in one position, we can do 12 frets higher as well. So if we're at the 5th fret and we know what those notes are, except for that one note at the 4th fret of the G string, then we can take that whole enchilada, move it up 12 frets. 5 plus 12 is 17. So now we're here. So basically this is an A, that's an A. This is a D, that's a D. Here's a G. Makes sense? So much easier now when we're identifying, well, what's this note here? I can say very confidently that it's an A sharp. Why? Well, not because I counted from here. That would take a real long time. And not that I counted from here. Not that I counted from here. I just know that that's an A because this is an octave of this note, right? I know that's an A. So I just said, well, one larger than an A is an A sharp. Make sense? Okay. So, and then with the use, really, that's all you need. Because, I mean, look at how you divided the fretboard. You know this, you know this, you know this, and this. Really, that with the movable springboards, that's all you need. You're going to find out what your note is immediately. And you might say to yourself, well, how can I get good at this? Well, then practice it. So what you'll do is I'll say, what is this note right here? So immediately I'm going to say it's an A. Well, why is it? Well, actually, sorry. I'm going to say it is an A, yeah. And that's how I figure that one out. So what I do is I worked backwards using movable springboards. So I said this, I know that's an octave, and this is an octave. And I know that that note, because of the tuning bit, is an A. So I worked all that out in my mind, not very quickly, I guess quickly, because I've done it so much. But it's not that I have some special ability any more than you do or anybody else. We all have the ability to learn and get better at a particular something, but it's not a magical power. If I say, what's this note right here, I can easily just do the same thing working backwards, or I could use this particular fret. E, A, D, G, B. So B doesn't have a sharp, so I got C, C sharp. Okay, E, A, D, G, B, B doesn't have a sharp. Remember, we learned that. So B goes straight to C. So after C is C sharp. So that's how I would do that. So I'm constantly using either movable springboards or stationary springboards. Depends on what I'm doing, really. And there you can see on the fly, it's just whatever kicks in. This is why I say it's so important to know music theory, to have a pretty good ear, to actually, if you can have a great ear, that's even better, but having good ear abilities, being able to read, even if you're doing just a little bit of all these things, what happens is when you're playing and you need an answer very quickly, our mind is it's created in such a way that we are meant to be able to find answers very quickly. I don't know if we're meant to, but we just do, okay? So we're able to figure out things very quickly. And if you've got a little bit of music theory, if you've got some chart knowledge and some music notation knowledge and good ear and that sort of thing, one of them is going to kick in for you and grab the answer for you. The better you get at all those things, the more magical you will seem. And this is why, you know, when you see your favorite guitar player, that they seem so amazing and they seem like they're magical, okay? Okay. Okay, make sure you guys are putting question marks too. I see one from D. Stiller here, no question marks, so I don't know if there's a question there, but I'm going to read it. Trying to play Pretty Woman, I have trouble with the F sharp minor. When I try to keep with the beat, do a good job when I break it down, slow it down. Good that you're doing that, and I'm proud of what I do. But when I go to keep up with the beat, I lose it. Totally logical, Distiller. Why? If someone runs a 5-minute mile, do you assume that they could run a 4-minute mile? Well, no, right? They're running a 5-minute mile. They definitely can run a 6-minute mile, and a 7-minute mile, and an 8-minute mile, and a 9-minute, and so on. But they can't necessarily run a 4-minute mile. So, Distiller, you're able to do this at a certain speed. When you speed it up, you lose the beat. So I know you're not asking a question there, but that's logical because you're speeding it up, okay? So don't speed it up yet. You're just not ready. And that's all that means. Look, as soon as we can get rid of the guilt of not being good enough in the moment, the better we're going to be, because there's going to be a lot of moments where we're not good enough. That's totally fine. That's why we practice, right? There's no amazing guitar player out there who didn't practice a lot. There's just not. You don't get to get all that fun stuff of being a great guitar player and what have you from not practicing. It's all about practice. Okay, good. Why are the dots situated the way they are? Mark is saying, great question, and I've gotten this one a lot. And you'll notice, Mark, that some guitars are different. Some guitars, let's see, do I have any that have a, I don't, that I can think of. Some guitars will have a fret dot right there on the first fret. I've seen it. Not too sure why. I think everybody knows where that first fret is. But I've seen it. I've seen some without the third fret. I've seen some without dots at all. In fact, I have at least one guitar like that, maybe two, where it just doesn't have fret dots at all here, but then you'll see them on the side. Same thing. So basically, you're almost always going to have one at the 12th fret. Usually going to have like a signature or something special, 2 dots in this case, because that's denoting that, man, this is the octave, you know? That's the octave. That's a pretty important note, okay? And then on most guitars, you'll see them at 5, 7, and 9. And on some guitars, you'll see it on 3 as well. And obviously, same thing up here. We got 3, 5, 7, 9. And then here are the equivalents, 15, 17, 19, 21. Okay, it's just basically, we've got the same thing. We got the octave. And these are, by the way, going along with our springboards information, look, same thing. Duplicate notes right here, 0 and 12. 3 and 15, duplicate notes. 5 and 17, duplicate notes. 7 and 19, duplicate notes. 9 and 21, duplicate notes. Just add 12 frets to whatever you're doing. That's where you're going to find those equivalents, okay? So really there is some rhyme or reason. It's just that there's a 12th fret to divide it, right? And it wouldn't make sense for there to be a dot on every on every marker, on every fret, because then there'd just be dots. So every other makes sense, and not having one at the first fret makes sense. I'm not too sure why they didn't do 2, 4, 6, 8, what have you, but honestly I think that works better this way because you only have 4. Otherwise you'd have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, so you'd have 5 frets. And realistically, we know where the second fret is. It's right after the first, okay? So I think this is a great method. I think, things like that just happen logically. Like people ask, well, why is the guitar tuned like it's tuned? Why is the B string tuned to a major third instead of a perfect fourth like all the other strings, right? So we have to go down this half step right here. Otherwise, we tune the guitar like this. But we don't, because that note would be flat. So we have to go down a half step and do it. Okay, that's just the way the guitar is tuned over time because enough people picked it up, noodled around with it, coming from a real organic level of just playing music, and they weren't able to play certain chords, like, for instance, bar chords, you know what I mean? So in order to do that, like a piano where you've got 2 hands to play the notes, if you're just playing with 1 hand, well, now you've got to have a good tuning. And the violin is tuned to fifths, but you're typically only playing 1 note at a time. Every now and then you'll play 2 notes at a time. But with guitar, you got to play 6 notes at a time with 1 hand. Do that, piano players. So we, as guitar players, actually get to do that. That's pretty cool. So there is a little bit of, or a lot of bit of thought and years put into why those fret markers are where they're at. All right? Great. Fourth string pull-off struggle is real. Nice. No, Barry says he's not the only pull-off catastrophe. That's why you guys are doing what you're doing, and I'm proud of you. Remember, a couple things. When you find a situation like that, your catastrophe, Tom, Barry, that's great. That's because you just found out what your Achilles heel is. Good news for you, because now you get to work on it, as opposed to being that guitar player, and there's plenty of them out there, where they just don't realize that they are not good, right? Because the guitar sounds so good if you just plug it into an amp and just jam out. So they don't realize sometimes that they're maybe not good, So basically you're saying practice, memorize, do real work. Yes. Yes, exactly. All right, great questions. Okay, 365 questions, Saturday, week 6, E finger octaves. Can you show how you're playing them? Having problems getting fingers to some of them. Should I play them like bar, chord, or one finger per note? Drew, if you would, please give me the title of that, because right now, where I'm at, I'm going to have to go dig into the web and find that one, and that's going to take me a few minutes here, and there's going to be a lot of dead air time. So if you give me the title, I can do that. But I can tell you, I think I know that one. I think it's the one, let's see, week 6, E6, E finger, octaves. Okay, so I'm not sure which one that is, but if it's the one that's like this, then what I'm doing is I'm finger picking 1, or strings 6, 4, and 1. So I'm just finger picking that. Okay, that's one way to do it. Now there may be another one that you're talking about, like it could be the octaves, like we find in our C chord. And in this case here, it's strings 5 and 1, and we can do that with finger picking, or we could mute. There's a couple different ways that we can mute that. But the struggle on muting, when you run into that, that means you're working on your muting. So if you can give me that title, I can drill down a little bit further for you. Okay? All right, great. I'm using UGS and 365 for daily practice as well as learning songs to keep my spirits up. Is that a good plan? It's a perfect plan, Chuck. Indeed. You want to make sure that music is fun. If it meant putting 365 down in UGS and you having more fun doing something else, then I would highly suggest doing that, okay? The reason I'm saying that is this. Now if that stops becoming fun for you, then you may need 365 in UGS or some other course again. What I'm saying to you is Guitar should be fun. Yes, it's going to be challenging, indeed. Anything worthwhile is going to be challenging, but it's going to be rewarding, right? But it should be fun. And if you're just doing 365 all day long, you may not be having a blast, because that's meant to stretch you. That's like working out at the gym all the time and not going for a beautiful hike on a vista to see the sunset, right? You got to have that. That's your song. Okay. Sorry, your review on Dan Electro Billionaire Pride of Texas pedal sounded good. Seems like Dan Electro is avoiding using the name Stevie Ray Vaughan. Do you think it came close to his sound? Yeah, exactly. Pride of Texas. Exactly. Yeah, I think it's close. Honestly, to me, it's almost like a hybrid of. I think it gets those great Stevie sounds, but then also it has some real guts to it as well. So to me, I feel like I can get a little bit of my OCD pedal sounds out of the Billionaire, the Pride of Texas, I should say. And here's the deal: if you take just a straight what's it called? A tube screamer, a screamer, Ibanez tube screamer, Maxon. There's many different names for it at this point. It's the green pedal that everybody talks about. That particular pedal, made very famous by many players, but one was Stevie Ray. And if you put that thing on 1 or you put it on 10, it sounds like somewhere between, like on any normal anything else, it sounds like between 3 and 5. There's not much breadth to it, and you can't get it super clean. Once you hit if you put it on 0, you hit the pedal, you can hear it kick in. So it doesn't span like the Billionaire, like the Pride of Texas does, where you can get those nice sounds, those nice Stevie sounds right in the front, and then you can crank it and really get the kind of more overdriven OCD type sounds. So that's what I found from it, and I really dug that, you know. Thomas A, maybe because the chord formation is 1, 3, 5, 7, 9. No, that is a good guess though. It would seem that were the case, but you know, then if you'd have to be in all open keys all the time, where you'd have to be in either E, A, D, you know, E, A, or D, really, for that to really make sense. But is there an exercise for improving vibrato technique? Okay, Greg, yes, and it is to practice vibrato. Now, I know that sounds like a cop-out, but I promise you, and everybody here will know that I'll say things like this a lot. It's like, whatever you're trying to get good at, practice that thing. And you're like, well, I'm not good at it. I know, because you haven't practiced it. So instead of thinking, well, what do I practice to get good at it, you practice that thing to get good at it. And I know that sounds crazy, but that truly is the way to do it. I'm not very good at slide guitar, okay, because I don't practice it very often. And I can hear it in my bends or in my vibrato, because when you're using a slide and you're playing, your vibrato should be very even. Sometimes my vibrato will sound like that. It's a little, whoa, hey, what's going on? So that's because I don't practice slide very often. I'm practicing standard playing guitar, and even that I'm still learning. So, you know, you want to practice your vibrato. So, but let's talk about that. Let's talk about how, you know, some specific techniques, maybe something that you can do that might make more sense. Number one, search inside UGS vibrato, because I'm pretty sure I have a video on this. But you want to think a few things. Number one is, the idea is you have a middle wherever the string is at, and you're moving it like this, okay? You're not moving it like this. Oh, I should say, if this is the center, you're not moving it like up like this, because what's happening is now you're bending the string. It's got a 0 point, and you're only bending it up, okay? So it's going to sound a little weird. There's going to be, I mean, technically you could do the same thing like this, but it's never coming back to that 0. There's going to be a better chance that it's not coming back to 0, where you're kind of bending it a little bit. So it's best to kind of move it back and forth like this. Okay, so what I'm doing is I'm going up and down, okay? So I'm going. as opposed to going where I'm bending up. If you don't come back to 0 there, then the chances are you're going to be doing this kind of bend. It's kind of going up. We don't want that. We want nice, smooth. You can have wide vibratos or smaller vibratos, fast vibratos like B.B. King. And so there's all different ways that you can do it, but what I suggest is that you think about it as if you're kind of taking a cigarette butt and kind of mashing it out. You almost think like you're sanding or trying to work a spot out that's on the neck, okay? And the only way to do it, Greg, is to do it. And it's going to sound goofy at first. Why? How do I know that? Because it does with everybody. In fact, it's that and bending are the two things that you can always tell in new guitar players, because those are the things you can typically play notes and chords and what have you, but when they go to play a bend or a vibrato, it typically is what it should sound. You know, you're going to hear that. You're going to hear that kick in. So with 365, should we try to practice up to 120 beats per minute? Derek, there is no set BPM. I think a lot of those I said at 120 just because 120 is kind of a standard, but not standard for where you should be at or should be striving for or anything like that. Derek, what you should be striving for is accuracy, and BPMs, that's going to happen through your practice. That's going to happen through accuracy. So don't worry. I mean, if you're able to play it at 130 BPMs with great accuracy, that's your goal, or 140 or 150. I mean, like, if you can play it faster with great accuracy, then that's really what you want. So, yeah, 120 would be great if you're less than that. How about that? But there's no specific bit, okay? It's a good question, though. Movable diatonic octaves on 6, 3, and 1 key of G. I think you just answered. Okay, 6, 3, and 1. Right, 6, 3, or 6, 3, and 1. Okay, yeah, so that's a little bit different. So I was doing this guy here. So yeah, you could go like so what I'm doing here is I'm using finger picking, but technically I could do it that way, to where I'm muting all the notes. But if you're just, in this case here, sometimes it's going to make more sense for you just to finger pick. You can think about 365 as, yeah, there is some direction in it, in that, hey, you probably want to use these fingers, but if you go and do different fingers, that's okay, but you might be painting yourself into a corner. So, 365 is meant to live and breathe. So if you want to make things harder, you can. If you need to make things easier, you can. Because next year you're going to be coming back around to it, and you're going to be fine. You can literally keep doing this and ever increase your dexterity. So if you need to make things easier, then do that. In order to keep in the game and to not get frustrated and to keep moving forward. Otherwise, ask me like you did here. That's a great question. Is there a practice technique for only striking the strings you want while you are strumming? That's a great question. There is, and it's called the pick rest. The pick rest will help you with this, but at the same time, I'm a big fan that if you're playing big kind of country guitar, kind of big Americana strumming, then it's really important to understand how to mute that 5th string or the 6th string and maybe the 5th string. Every now and then if you're playing some sort of D chord, you might want to mute the 5th string as well. But 99 times out of 100, you're going to be, or I should say 95 times out of 100, you're going to be muting the 6th string, which is super easy to do. And I've got a video for that. If in the upper left-hand corner, when you're in UGS, search thumb, and it's something about thumb muting. You can even search thumb mute, thumb muting, and you'll find it. So really, the idea is it's so much easier to understand how to develop the technique to mute that 6th string with your thumb than it is to try to strum individual strings. Number one, easier. Number two, there's some amount of dynamic, amount of love, amount of energy that's lost when you're worried about picking 4 or 5 strings as opposed to 6, okay? Now, with that being said, I teach songs all the time where I'm like, you're just going to hit the top 4 strings or the top 5 strings. But that is your goal, okay? That's what you're shooting for. But it's rock and roll, you know, it's music. It's meant to live and breathe. When things sound too sterile, they sound too sterile, and no one likes that. There wants to be heart, you know, so we want heart. So bottom line, learn to mute that 6th string, and if you have something that you just need to hit the bottom 4 strings, you can bring the thumb around even more to mute that 5th string, but really just kind of aim. You know, what you want to do is you want to hit the strings at an angle if you just want lower notes. Or for instance, if I wanted some low notes and not some higher notes, so what I'm doing here is I'm basically hitting my low note here. See if I can get this on video. Yeah, let's see here. So if I go low, and you can see here I'm kind of hitting the strings at an angle. I'm kind of cutting in from this direction as opposed to coming down, just all the strings. I'm going, so I'm hitting that low note and then kind of hitting this at a 45-degree angle. You know, but at the same time, if I'm not using that mute when I need to on those strings that have a 5th string root instead of the 6th string root, then that's going to make things more difficult. Okay, great question. Can you talk about the timing between your foot and your picking when using a wah pedal? I'm not sure how to answer that question the way you phrased it, Tom, but I can tell you I know what you're looking for. So typically when one uses a wah pedal, what you're wanting to do is, let's see if I've got a patch here where I've got a wah. Let's see. Okay, so I may not have one that's got a wah built into it, so I thought that I had one. Okay, I don't. I apologize. Here's the deal. When it comes to, I'm gonna have to work on that because that would be cool for me to be able to show you that. When it comes to a wah, typically you want to use the wah for your accents. Okay, that's when you push the pedal forward, you have that brighter sound as opposed to the darker sound. So what you do is you hit it for the accents, and typically that's when you're picking, or the harder notes that you pick, you know. Right? Voodoo Child. That's exactly what Jimmy was doing. He's hitting those he's using that, pumping that wah to accent those notes. But ultimately, Tom, it's an artist's paintbrush, and how that artist uses that paintbrush is really up to that artist. With that being said, we're used to hearing things a certain way. So I know where you're going with that, Tom, is you want it to sound at least on the right page. You don't want to sound like you're some crazy artist, right? You want it to fit. So I understand that. So, you know, the best thing to do is to slow things down because there's a lot going on when you're using a wah. But if you can accent that note, you want to, you know, push that toe down and not make very big movements per se. Usually there's we want to say the pedal goes from 1 to 10, then you're usually not sweeping the whole 10 bits. Usually you have it somewhere around a 6 location. You're kind of pumping to the 10, or somewhere around 5 to 9 or something like that. So there's a smaller breadth, if that makes sense. Okay, Terry is saying, I watched your lesson on chord noodling in UGS and it's just not clicking with me. Can you please clarify the chord noodling map PDF? Am I missing something more fundamental here? Okay, Terry. So, Terry, in UGS or in anywhere I've taught this, I typically teach chord noodling from the keys of G major and C major. Here's why. You know me. I like to make things very simple because I'm going to lose you if we go into all the different keys and what have you. And honestly, when we're playing guitar, if we're using a capo and we're doing chord noodling and that sort of thing, typically we're playing in the key of G or C anyhow. And the whole idea of those videos is that it would give you this concept. The key of C is C, D, E, F, G, A, B. No sharps or flats. The key of G is G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. So they have the same exact set of notes, except in the key of G, the F is sharp, whereas in the key of G, or in the key of C, the F is flat. Or I'm sorry, not flat. It's natural. It's C, D, E, F, G, A, B. No sharps or flats. In the key of G, the F is sharp. That's what makes the gravitational pull go to G, and what makes C, C, and G, G. Okay? You don't have to understand that. Just trust that those keys are their own keys because of the way the notes are aligned with each other. So what I say is, if you wanted to do chord noodling, the only thing that chord noodling is saying, it's saying you got a chord and you want to do something more fun. Like you want to be able to play some fun little melody notes along with what you're doing, right? So here I've got a G chord. And if I want to play a melody with it, I've got notes that are in that map. You'll see C major and G major, and you'll see the notes are the same except for that one little note, which is the F sharp. So in the key of C, you can play this note as your noodle note. And if you were to play some sort of F in the key of G, you'd have to do the F sharp for it to sound good. So for instance, here I am in the key of G. Makes sense? So that's the F sharp. That's what I should be playing. Now if I was playing in the key of C, let's see. So basically now what I'm doing is I'm noodling on this F note instead of the F sharp because now I'm in the key of C. So really, technically, think about this. Let's do 30,000 foot level. Chord noodling is taking chords and playing them, but you're playing notes, other notes that are inside of the key, right? Because a key is 7 notes, right? You're playing some other notes in addition to that chord, some sort of melody, you know? Strumming chords. I'm strumming a G chord, but I'm kind of noodling a little melody here. That's where we get the word noodling from. Again, this is not something that you're probably going to Google search and find because these are concepts that I come up with. So you've got your little noodle note there, but in the key of C, we've got a different set of notes. Really, there's only one note that's different. The F is natural in the key of C. It's sharp in the key of G. So that's the only thing you got to be aware of. So the way to start, what I would suggest doing is watching that video over again, watching it several times over again, Terry, and doing exactly what I do in that video, okay? Start off with one chord, and then you could go to 2 chords. But just start off with one chord. That's the idea, okay? Let me know if that does not clear things up and specifically what it is you have a question about, Terry, if that did not end up answering your question. Okay, great. Thank you, sir. All right, man, some great questions tonight, and I am just looking right now. I'm just looking for question marks, okay? Because we got a lot of folks in here tonight. I know you have heard this many times before. I just can't get my bar chords to sound like chords. Am I missing something? Yes, Michael, you are missing something. What are you missing? No way for me to know. The only way for me to know is to be sitting in front of you and for you to do the exercise on the video that I gave you specifically for doing this. And it has something to do with the F chord, bar chords, that sort of thing inside of UGS. So if you have not, Michael, if you haven't broken the chord down to 2-note sections and then 3-note sections and then 4-note sections, 5-note sections, then you too will not know what you're missing. But you are missing something, obviously, because the chord's not sounding right. So Michael, do yourself a big fat favor. Watch that video, do exactly like I say. If I take an F chord, right, I'm not gonna just play the F chord and hear muted notes and wonder what am I doing wrong. I've got to drill down, okay? It'd be like being on the moon and looking down at Earth and seeing whatever, of a war or something and being like, something's wrong. Yeah, something's wrong, but you're going to have to drill down. You're going to have to go down there and look to see who's beating up on who, right? So same way, you've got to drill down to that chord and you've got to see what's the problem note. You could just take a chord and just pick through it. Okay, that note's muted. Okay, that's the only note that's muted. Okay, well then I know I need to work on that. Then you need to drill down 2 notes, 3 notes, 4 notes, 5 notes, 6 notes. But the reason you're doing that is because you want to identify what it is, get your fingers to do the right thing, and the only way to get them to do the right thing is for you to realize you're doing the wrong thing, fix it with the techniques that I've taught you, do it again and again and again, then you're building that repetition, and then when you grab the chord, it'll be right. Make sense? Eric, is there a teacher you would recommend to learn slide? I know many use alternate tunings, which I guess I'd need to learn eventually to utilize slide, blues, country recommendations. Mark, I don't have anybody that I know that I could say to learn slide from. With that being said, I do have some slide lessons inside of the course, and they're literally introductory lessons because I don't fancy myself a great slide player. I can get the job done, but really what it is I'm using standard tuning. So you could do that. You could just like literally take, let's say like the minimalistic blues or something like that, and you could just straight up start playing. So I'm just using minimalistic blues notes right there, you know? So I'm just using the same notes, but just using the slide. And honestly, I would start there before I would even start paying a slide guitar teacher because boy, oh boy, oh boy, just the technique, getting the technique down is a whole enchilada. You could literally spend a year just getting good at that. Then I'd say, see if there's somebody in town or something that you could learn some slide from. Otherwise, you gotta learn just like the basic technique first, and that I do teach inside the program. Great, good questions, my friends, good questions. Have you ever experimented with 444 versus 440? All tuners are tuned to 444, I think. But I heard that ancient tuning that is tuned to the rhythm of the heartbeat is 440, whole tones or something like that. Do you know anything about that? Other way around. So tuners are tuned to 440. 432, hi-ya, is what some folks say is the tuning of the universe. I've watched many videos about this, and I think there's probably some degree of truth to it. But after I watched all those videos, somebody made a great point and said, you know, basically 432, let's see, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. 432 is divisible by lots of things. It's divisible by 2, it's divisible by 9, I think it might be divisible by 6, divisible by 3. And so the whole point of 432 is number one, it used to be what people tuned to, supposedly. I've watched lots of videos on it. I didn't break out the history of tuning from some professional place, and unfortunately with YouTube you get a lot of whacks. So, but with that being said, I believe that that 432 was most likely what people used to tune to. Okay, now here's where the controversy happens. is that 432 is very divisible by lots of different numbers, so it makes it very even. Okay. To add to the propaganda, it was supposedly the Nazis made people start tuning to 440 because they said it's not even, it's going to mess with their brains, this, that, and the other thing. I think it's very far-fetched, and I can believe in some of that woo-woo quite often. But I think it's quite far-fetched in regards to that. With that being said, lots of people are tuning now to 432 because they say the music sounds better, this, that, and the other thing. I think I'm not going to give my opinion, but I don't really hear much of a difference, if anything. Also, here's the question that to me kind of made a lot of sense. Is someone said, okay, that's even, right? 432 is even, right? But who came up with what a hertz is, the measurement, 432, or what the distance is? That's like saying, well, the yardstick is 432 centimeters as opposed to however many centimeters it is, 100 centimeters or whatever, right? A yardstick? You know what I mean, a meter. But who came up with the length of a meter? Or who came up with the length of an inch or anything else? A man did, right? So, like, that's not like, it's not coming from the universe. It's coming from a dude who said, this is the standard. This is the length of my foot. That's what the king said. That's why we have a foot. Like, the length of a yard was from his nose to the tip of his finger. So it's like, that's not very scientific either. So all that being said, there's a lot of controversy around it, but I think people are making too much ado of nothing, is my opinion. It's just an opinion. It's probably not even right. Okay. That's funny. Okay. All right. Looking for a question. Okay. When do you know it's time to use a sus chord, etc.? I'm talking as in a traditional progression, ADE, GCD. At what point in the progression or what have you would you throw that in? No, it's an odd one. I worked on several styles of music and sounded great, like a slight walk down kind of thing. I know when it's time to do something like that, but I just can't pull the rabbit out of the hat. Dead film star. Okay, so great. So here's the deal. So you can usually use the suspended chord. You can usually use it on the 5 chord. Okay, so for instance, so that's a suspended in the key of G on the 4 chord. And it doesn't really sound very good because, going back to the last example, that's kind of chord noodling there. And I'm hitting, if I suspend it, basically what I'm doing is I'm using a note outside the scale. I'm playing an F instead of an F sharp. So on the 4 chord, the suspension really doesn't sound very good naturally. But if you're talking like a traditional suspension, which is just taking the 3rd and raising it up a half step to a 4, then that's going to sound great on the 5 chord. Okay. Technically, you could do it on the 1 chord as well. Suspension right there. So I could also play it like this. Da, 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 da. That's actually Pink Floyd. To me, you didn't care. And there, he's breaking the rule. He's actually using a suspension on the 4 chord. So I'm glad that I mistakenly, or not mistakenly, just picked a song out of the air that shows that you can break the rules too. So Dead Film Star. So here's the deal. The 5 chord, it almost always naturally sounds good. That's where you're hearing a lot of those suspensions. But here you go, Pink Floyd, right? It's like you put it where you want to put it. So yeah, you can pull the rabbit out of the hat. And if it doesn't sound good, stick them back in the hat. So literally throw in a suspension when you want to, you just do it. You know what I mean? It's kind of like working with paints, you know? You throw in a new color and you're like, it doesn't really work. I want this color again. So it's a great question, but definitely could use it on the 5 chord. Definitely can use it on the 1 chord. And in the case here, we just used it on the 4 chord as well. Now those are only 3 major chords, right? Typically in a major key and a minor key. There's only 3. So those are the 3 chords that we really technically could use it on. Most of the time you don't use one on a minor chord. You could, but that's not the sound that you're going for. It's just very, very rarely ever used. Okay. Okay, great. What amp do I need to play blues at home? And I like to play both Fender and Epiphone guitars. Also effects box recommendations on getting started on focusing learning the amp. Scott, depends on your price point and a lot of other things. You might want to watch the section on amps inside of UGS, but if you're really looking for a very affordable, really great amp, I just bought one. I have not pulled it out of the box yet to even do the review. I bought it like last week, and that's how busy my life is. It's literally sitting in the other studio. Haven't even had time to break it open. And it's called, it's a Boss Katana amp. And it's the one that I'm going to be giving away on August the 25th for that live broadcast along with that Gibson Les Paul. I'll be giving away that amp. And I've just read a lot of reviews about it. I'm hearing a lot of buzz about it. And it's supposed to be a great amp. It has built-in effects. It's a 50-watt solid-state amp, I would guess. 12-inch speaker. So if you're looking for around the $200 range, $220, something like that, that's the one I would get, a Katana 50-watt amp. Okay, check that one out. Otherwise, a Blues Junior for more expensive, more bluesy type stuff, and it's like in the $400, $500, $600 range. Tom's saying, what's your take on modeling amps, Eric? I didn't have room for lots of amps, so I bought a PV Viper Pro so I could model lots of different sounds even without the pedals. Tom, I've got all different types of amps. The one that I'm using right now that you guys are hearing is a modeling amp. It's probably the top of the line. I say probably. It's the top line modeling amp. It's called a Kemper Profiler. And it's a very, it's a wonderful amp. Runs about $2,300, I think, in the store on sale. So it's expensive, but literally everybody in the world who's playing on the road and what have you is using it. Like a lot of folks are using it. Literally, they just have that in a cab anymore, and they're just using that, and they got a backup. So I think they're wonderful if you get good ones. PV makes good stuff, you know. So yeah, they've really gotten better with that technology. I've got tube amps, love them, but honestly, this Kemper next to my tube amps can do so much more and sounds absolutely amazing if you got the right speaker connected to it. It's absolutely amazing. So, and that comes from a guy who's been tube his whole life. So you'll hear people, I swear by tubes, da 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 da. Okay, that's cool. You get your one tube sound. I've got 1,700 different sounds that I want here that come up anytime I want. They're tube sounds and they sound beautiful. So it just depends on what you want to do, but I think there's some great ones out there, you know. Okay, great. Good. I love that you guys are helping each other out. That is, let me tell you, that is gold. I so love it that you guys are helping each other out because that's really important as a community to help each other out. It will also make you a better player because when you teach somebody, you're spreading that love, and there's just something about the universe that helps you to understand things better, probably because you're teaching it or maybe some other universal force or something. But nonetheless, show people and help people. It will truly help you be a better player. What does it mean when you say a 4 chord? Joe is saying, great. Joe, watch this section for more detailed information. I'll tell you in just a moment here, but watch the whole section inside of UGS on the Nashville number system. That'll totally clear it up. But it goes like this, Joe. You have your major scale, right? Do, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. And for each one of those chords, or each one of those notes, we have a chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1. So we have a 1 major, a 2 minor, 3 minor, a 4 major, a 5 major, 6 minor, 7 diminished, and 1 major. And so when I say a 4 chord in the key of G, I'm talking 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a C chord. If I were playing in the key of C, 1, 2, 3, 4, it's an F. So it depends on what key you're in is the 4 chord, but technically you go up 4 notes in the scale, 4 scale steps, major key, and then you've got what you're talking about. Make sense? Good, good. What's a good small portable amp? Lots of them. Yamaha makes a THR or THC series. If you were to go to Google and type in Yamaha amp TH, it'll fill it out for you. It's like THC or THR. It's probably not THC. It's probably THR. I'd buy that amp. But THR would probably be the amp that, I think it's THR something or another. Okay. So check that amp out. It's really small and has some great tone to it. I've bought that for my daughter, and I used to have one. Great amp. Actually, it is my amp. I gave her my amp. And that's an amazing, super small sound, super small but big sounding. It's a great one. Oops, I forgot the minors. Yes, indeed. Okay, good, good, good. All right, so what other questions? All right, I want to make sure, look, it's very important to me. I know we're past our hour, but I want to make sure that you get your questions answered, because this is where the love happens, right? We want to make sure, because what's that one thing that's keeping you back, right? It's keeping you from moving on to the next level. Oh, by the way, Black Star makes a nice little portable amp too. It's called the Fly. I've got one. I don't use it very often, but I bought it for certain occasions. But it's called the Fly 2, I think, FLY. Just look on YouTube, or on Google, search Black Star Fly, and you'll find what I'm talking about. Pig Nose is another one. Yeah, 5-watt Pig Nose is amazing. Yep, it's a great little amp that's like classic 5-watt Pig Nose. I don't think it's tube, but no, it can't be tube, but it's plenty loud. Plenty loud. And you can open it up to change. It's like a little box. You can put stuff in it. You can open it up, and depending on how you open it up, you can get kind of some different sounds from it as well. I don't know if it's battery. I don't know if it's battery operated or not. Okay, good. Yeah, so C major scale, C D, E, F, G, A, B, 1-4-5 progression would be C, F, G. Exactly, Tom. You got it. Yes, 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 yes. Hi, yeah, thanks for the opinion. I've seen a lot of info regarding the brain heart frequencies and those tones around the 432, whatever affects the body, similar to the change in the calendar and clock timing being changed off lunar cycle versus sun. If you know what I mean, not sure if it's true or not. Experimented with some tuners and headphones trying to rewire my brain regarding terminal neurodegenerative diseases. Appreciate your thoughts, and sorry to everyone if that was off base. I don't think it's off base at all. If you think about it, this isn't woo-woo. This is 100% true. Everything's vibrating. Everything's vibrating at some sort of frequency, okay? Your organs are vibrating at different frequencies. And it's just true. The universe, the earth, everything's vibrating at different frequencies. So it would make sense that things can be off kilter. That's why things like fluorescent lights and LEDs are not good for you. They've determined, I don't want to open up a whole can there. I'm teaching you how to play guitar, but you can do your own research on fluorescent lights, and especially LEDs. Fluorescent lights blink as well, but it messes with you. Okay? In the meanwhile, I got tons of fluorescent lights hitting me right now. Sometimes you got to have them on. And yes, can cause diseases and all sorts of stuff. What am I going to do, right? Oh, man. So good. Okay. Yeah, it's in solid state. Okay, struggling with note length, especially when doing 365 exercises like stretch and reach. All right. Then, Thexton, what you want to do is slow it down. I know what you mean by that is you're moving to the next note and cutting off the note, right? If you've been playing for a few years, I'd say, we got to drill down. But usually these questions come from folks that are just starting off, and so that's very logical. It makes sense, Watch the video Chasing Chords in a Progression by using pentatonic for each chord. Yep. progressions G, C, D, and they would use G scale, then C scale, and D scale. Isn't that changing keys? It is, Stephen, and you can do this. I mentioned this in the beginning when I joined my first band, and we had a song that did that. It changed those chords like that, like all chord progressions do. They change their progressions. And what I did is for the solo, I did that same exact thing. The chord would change and I would change where my scale was. And I came up with some interesting solos. Probably not what I would do now, but they were really cool. So yes, one can do that. And you're not going to find as many sweet notes doing that because you are essentially changing keys, but at the same time, not really. Because what you're doing is it's more of a jazz way to play. Every now and then there's a note or two that you might play that are outside the scale, but what they do is they just color what you're doing instead of truly changing the keys. The chord progression has to change for you to really be changing keys and in a way that you're like, okay, I'm changing keys. There's what's called temporary key change, and then there's key change. Temporary key change is when you go outside the scale, like this. Hear that F chord? It should be an F major chord. That's what it should be, but right, see how that has that one little twist to it? That's because that one note, essentially we're going outside the key change, but it's not held out there long enough to where your mind is forgiving, and it will say, are we coming back? And then we do come back and we resolve it. And because of that resolution, we're not really technically changing keys. We are for a split second on that chord, but that's it. All right, great, 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 right? Okay, thank you so much, Haya. I appreciate that, my friend. I picked up a used 10-watt first act for $5, and my Epi LP really shines through in a large room. Nice, $5. I'll buy any amp for $5. I signed up for UGS 365 and I've not yet started with 365 workouts, but preview the exercises. Question is, all the exercises are recommended at 120, but as a newbie, you can't exercise. No, don't worry about 120. I had to put it at something in order for it to play. So it's not even a suggestion, honestly. Hiya. Hiya, both a welcome and a karate chop. I love that you guys are helping each other out, friends, inside the program. That makes me so happy. It really does, because I can only answer so many people. Now, inside UGS, I answer everybody, right? I don't think there's a comment that I hadn't gotten to. If there is, then I hadn't seen it. But I check them several times a day. YouTube and Twitter and Facebook, then we're getting out of control because I literally get hundreds of messages every day, and so it's about it is impossible for me to get to them all if I want to spend time with the family and eat and create videos and pay bills and those sorts of things. But I try to get to it all. And friends, it really is helpful when you guys do that as well amongst each other and help each other out. If you don't know the answer, it's fine. Don't say it. If it's just encouragement, then do that. But you guys are my inner sanctum. I say it all the time. This is the crew right here, right? You guys are the dudes. You guys are the dudettes. This is the crew. This is the UGS crew, and I'm really so happy to have you guys. I love doing these broadcasts. You guys bring great questions, great energy, and I love it because it's like, you know, meeting with one person's great. Meeting with 89 people here in the room, and we're all moving forward together collectively and helping each other and bolstering each other. That's beautiful. You know, that's what life's about. That's what the world is about, can be about. I think consciousness is moving there, and that's helpful because of people like you and me. So, beautiful. Great, my friends. All right, if there's no more questions, we're going to call it. Remember, we're doing 2 of these every single month now, okay? And eventually we're going to move up from there too, because if we get so many people in the program, I want everybody's questions answered, and we need to be able to do that. So, okay, great. Yeah, thank you so much, Tom. Thank you, Mary Beth. Okay, my friends, I'm out of here. Watch, man, we've got some great, amazing stuff coming up. Giving this away on August the 25th. So anybody who's in the program right now and is just doing the 30-day trial and you want to win, make sure you come to the broadcast on August the 25th, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, because I'm going to be giving this guy away Oh, let me tell you about this really quickly as you guys are saying goodbye. Yeah, right? UGS Crew t-shirt. Wouldn't that be fun? That's a great idea, Robert. I need to do that. We need to have UGS Crew t-shirts. That would be super cool. Jason, if you're still here, write that down. That is fun. We need to do that. So here, let me tell you about this guitar really quickly. August 25th, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time, we're going to be talking basically about how to maximize your practice time in 4 of the most important areas on the guitar. It's going to be super cool. So this guitar was owned by blues legend Laser Lloyd and purchased or traded actually with Laser. It was adopted by Michael Spriggs, who is a legendary session guitar player here in Nashville. I saw this come online at Groon Guitar. I love Les Pauls. I love Les Paul Specials because they got the P90 pickups. And this thing, I'll just play for you real quick on the way out, is amazing. The best sounding P90 pickups I've ever played. This is a rock and roller, and I actually hate to get rid of it. I've been really playing with it for every day now since I got it, and it's magical. So it was owned by both those guys. It cost me just a little under $1,200. I'll be giving away an amp with it as well, that Katana amp, and a lifetime membership to the Unstoppable Guitar System, a tuner, a bunch of other stuff, like maybe 50, 60 bucks worth of other little superfluous things, and 4 Dan Electro pedals. So the whole enchilada is going to be easily over $2,000, just for the grand prize. And we're going to be giving away other lifetime memberships to the Unstoppable Guitar System for those that are here for 30 days. You could check it out. Okay. So, but check this out. Check this baby out. Oh, what? Listen to that, right? Or what? Doesn't that sound magical? So, needless to say, I don't want it to go away, but it's going away. Okay? It's going to go away on. So mark it down in your calendar right now. August 25th, 11 a.m. Central Standard Time. I also have new videos that are up. You're not going to see them yet. They're up in the update section. I need to do some tweaking, and I need to add some PDFs and that sort of thing. All that good stuff. And then I will make a video available to you saying, hey, go get them, have a blast, this, that, and the other thing. All right, my friends? I love you guys so much. Thank you so much. You guys rule, and I'm out of here.